We are the ship, ninth inning. Then came Jackie Robinson. There was never a man in the game who could put mind and muscle together quicker and with better judgment than Jackie Robinson. Branch Rickey. There is a story the pitcher Chet Brewer used to tell. A black boy went into the ballpark and he told a white manager, "Hey, I'd like to try out for your team." The white manager said, "Go away, boy. I don't have any room for a black boy on my team." He went away and came back the next night and asked the manager again. The manager said, "I told you last night, I don't have any room for a black boy on my team." So he came back a third night and the manager said, "I've had it up to here with you. If you come back tomorrow night, I'll have the police throw you in jail." So the following night, the kid bought a ticket right over this white man's dugout. And he sat there and he bugged this manager and he bugged him and he bugged him. So finally, the manager said, "Hey, coach, get that man down here and give him a uniform. I'm going to pick out a spot in this game to embarrass him so he won't ever come back. Because I know he can't play. He's just a lot of mouth." So he brought him down and put him in a uniform. And this particular night, they were playing a team that had the ace relief pitcher in the whole league, a big giant of a white man who threw BBs. The opposing pitcher walked the bases fully, and the manager said, "This is where I'll show this black boy up." He said, "Hey, you pinch hit." So the kid ran by the bat stand, picked up the first bat he came to, and walked up to the plate. The opposing manager summoned his big relief ace pitcher from the bullpen. And the first pitch this big white man threw, this black boy hit it up against the right center field fence. And as he was rounding second base, the white manager jumped up and said, "Look at that Cuban go!" And here's a painting of Jackie Robinson. Major League owners had been looking at our Negro League players for years. It's no secret that some of them wanted to sign Negroes to their teams. They would try to pass them off as Cuban or American Indian. John McCraw, the manager of the Baltimore Orioles back in 1901, signed a Negro named Charlie Grant to his team. Now, everybody and his mother knew that Charlie was a Negro. But McGraw tried to pass him off as a Cherokee Indian named Chief Charlie Takahama. It almost worked, too, until a bunch of Negroes went to congratulate him after a game and ruined the whole thing. Towards the end of World War II, Major League owners began sending their scouts to Negro League games. They even gave some of our boys tryouts, but nothing ever came of it. Even the last place teams wouldn't take us. They always had some excuse like, "There are just too many of you to go in," or "Nobody wants to be the first one to sign a Negro." We knew that if they decided to sign one of us, it meant we'd be taking the place of one of the white ball players, and he'd be out of a job. That didn't sit too well with the major leagues. It seemed like the major league owners would never sign a Negro ball player. Kennesaw Mountain Landis made a statement in the papers saying there was no agreement of any sort that banned Negroes from playing in the majors. But how else do you explain the absence of Negroes from Major League Baseball for almost 60 years? The statement was a flat-out lie. Landis wouldn't have let a Negro into the major leagues in his life if his life depended on it. And that's the truth. Bill Veeck tried to buy the Philadelphia Phillies and planned to load the team up with Negro League stars like Josh Gibson, Cool Papa Bell, and Satchel Paige. He told Landis what he wanted to do, but of course, Landis shot it down. The team was sold to somebody else for next to nothing. After nearly 25 long years as Major League Baseball commissioner, Judge Landis died in 1944. A new commissioner was elected, A.B. Happy Chandler. A couple of reporters from the black papers immediately asked him where he stood on the question of integrating baseball. That fellow came right out and said, if a colored boy can make it on Okinawa and Guadalcanal, he can make it in baseball. We had waited more than 50 years to hear those words. It was all over the papers. People, black and white, were talking about it at the dinner table, in the street, in the barber shops, on the radio, in the newspapers, everywhere. A lot of the major league owners didn't like what Chandler said, especially coming from a Southern fellow. That really got him into some trouble. They couldn't wait for him to make a mistake. As soon as he stubbed his toe, Chandler was out of there. He only lasted a few years as commissioner, but he made it possible for Negroes to play in Major League Baseball. And here's a painting of James Cool Papa Bell. People always talk about Branch Rickey and integrating baseball, and he deserves a great deal of credit because he was the only major league owner willing to take a chance on a Negro ball player. But if it hadn't been for Chandler, Rickey couldn't have done a thing. After the door to the major leagues had finally opened, the only question was, who will be the first to go? By that time, many of our great Negro League players were past their prime. Buck Leonard was about 39 years old. Ray Dandridge was up there too, and so was Josh Gibson, and he was sick. Satchel and Cool Papa were even older, and if they had been called up, they wouldn't have gone straight to the majors. They would have had to play in the minors for a year or two. On top of that, they would have had to take a pay cut. Most guys were making about $800 a month in the Negro League, and that was good money. Starting salary in the minors was about half that. The owners were looking for somebody young. We had a few young ball players who were good enough to choose from. Larry Doby, Monty Irvin, Roy Campanella, Jackie Robinson, and a few others. We thought Monty would have been the first to go, or maybe Larry Doby. But they chose Jackie Robinson. Why Jackie? Now, Jackie was a good ball player, but he had guys we thought were better. A lot of the guys weren't happy that Jackie was chosen to be first. But you know something? You can be wrong about a person. We look back and see that they found the right man in Jackie. All of that stuff he took, nobody else would have taken. At most games, white fans hissed at him and spat at him, and once even threw a black cat on the field. I remember a bunch of the guys sitting around talking about Jackie and the stuff those white folks were doing to him while he was with the Montreal Royals. Josh Gibson said, "Man, if they did that to me, I would have punched them in the mouth." And everybody said, "See, that's why you didn't go." Jackie was a big guy, about 6 feet, 205 pounds. He had a college education and had played with whites while he was in school, and he was fast. He had been a track star out in California before he went into the military. So was his brother Mac, who played second base behind Jesse Owens in the 200-meter dash, who placed second behind Jesse Owens in the 200-meter dash in Germany. Jackie had played football and basketball too. On the Kansas City Monarchs, he played shortstop and second base. And during his years with the team, he hit 345 thousandths with 10 doubles, 4 triples, and 4 home runs. Jackie hated to lose. He wouldn't take anything from anybody. I tell you, Jackie had a terrific temper and could curse like a sailor. If he felt someone was doing him wrong, he would just let them know about it. Jackie got into about 3 fights that year he was with the Monarchs. One was with an umpire, knocked him out cold, but the players tried to keep that one quiet. It was his temper that got him out of the service early. The military was segregated back then, and it drove him crazy. Those guys would yell at Jackie, calling him this and that. That kind of thing was hard for a man like Jackie to take. He knew he was smarter than a lot of those guys and got himself into trouble talking back. Once, while we were riding a military bus, the driver told him to sit in the back where Negroes were supposed to sit. Jackie knew that on a military bus he could sit wherever he wanted, so he refused. Here's a painting of Branch Rickey. Although the Army officers knew he was right, Jackie was court-martialed. He beat the charges, but was later honorably discharged from the military. But Jackie was a good man despite his temper. He didn't drink or smoke and wouldn't go out on the town chasing girls like most of the other fellows. He just stayed at the hotel and played cards. His heart belonged to one gal. He was so serious. We used to kid him about how serious he was. He always talked about playing in the majors. Maybe deep down, he knew he'd be the first to go. Even still, he was very nervous about being able to make it in the big leagues. His roommate on a barnstorming team in Venezuela, Gene Benson, said, Where are you going ain't half as tough as where you've been. He told Jackie about how he had played major leagues for years and beat them just the same as he had beaten our own teams, even though our playing conditions were so much tougher. Hearing that really helped Jackie. Before Jackie signed with the major league team, the Brooklyn Dodgers, the team owner, Branch Rickey, wanted to meet Jackie face to face. During the meeting, Mr. Rickey acted as if he was angry, yelling and calling Jackie every racial name in the book, just to test Jackie's famous temper. Jackie kept his cool and just sat there. He was probably wondering why this old white man called him all of these things when they were just supposed to be having a meeting. Mr. Rickey explained that he was only testing him and that this was the sort of thing he would have to face every day on the road, and that he would have to hold his temper and not talk back, no matter what, for a period of 3 years. He asked Jackie if this was something that he could do. Most guys would have said, "Oh, yes, Mr. Rickey, I can do that." But Jackie, he thought for a moment. Then he looked Mr. Rickey in the eye and said, "If you are willing to take this risk and allow me to join your ball club, then I can assure you that there will be no incident." This really impressed Mr. Rickey, and it only shows just how smart and eloquent Jackie was. Jackie signed with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1945. He played his first year with Montreal, the Dodgers' farm team, and led the team to the minor league World Series. In the spring of 1947, Jackie was called up to the Dodgers and did well there too. He hit 297 thousandths and led his team to 29 stolen bases and 125 runs scored. He also had 12 home runs. The Dodgers won the pennant in 1947. The Sporting News named Jackie Rookie of the Year. But the most amazing thing of all was that he did it under all that pressure. He received death threats, and someone even threatened to kidnap his little boy. On the field, the fans called him names and threw stuff at him. Pitchers threw at him, and players pushed him around and tried to spike him when they ran the bases. He had to deal with that kind of thing every single day. And the worst part was that he couldn't fight back. He didn't say anything because he knew it would ruin the chances of any other Negro playing in the majors. I think that is what hurt Jackie the most. He was the type of guy who always stood up for himself, and he just couldn't do that in the majors, at least for the first 3 years. He had to keep it all inside. That kind of thing can make you sick. That's why he died so young. Baseball is what killed Jackie. Nothing else. But Jackie did something that made us all proud. He brought our Negro League style to play to the major leagues and changed the face of baseball. He made it quicker and more daring. His base running changed the way pitchers had to pitch. And most importantly, Jackie cleared the way for the rest of us to play in the majors. And in doing that, he helped bring the rest of the country closer to accepting Negroes as first class citizens.